Hey folks.
Hey.
So it's been a while since we've done devlog because we've been hard at work trying to get quite a bit done in Schwarzwald, as well as get our marketing up and running. So you might see we were like more active on socials recently, and we actually have our Steam page finally up and everything as well. I wanted to get back into the habit of sort of getting these devlogs going again, and I believe the last one that we did was about the doors, and we were going to do procedural door sounds. So we finally have all that stuff implemented and ready to go, and I'm just gonna quickly bring up Unreal. With me here is Steven, who is our audio tech guy. Pretty much everything audio in the game, creating the whole sort of soundscape for Schwarzwald has been all Steven and myself. He's going to be here to sort of explain the stuff that we do in WWise, which is our audio base. And I'll be sort of explaining the Unreal side and the way that the tech actually works within the game. So pretty much the door works exactly the same as the way we had shown it in the last devlog. There's just been a slight update that we did, which you can see right here. And that's that prior to, in order to open the door, we were using the actor's forward vector and basically checking which direction the player was facing along with the direction of the door. But now, instead of doing that, we're using just the player's position in respect to the door, because what would happen is if you're literally right up against the door frame and you try to open the door, you'll notice that it can sometimes just start going in the opposite direction. And that's because it wasn't factoring in that you're still on the on one side of the door. It was trying to see you as like right in the middle. So that was a quick fix there. Beyond that, to add in the procedural door sounds, we had to start calculating the velocity of the door, because we needed something that allowed us to see how fast the door was being opened, as well as just generally like where in the opening the door currently is. So that's pretty much what we're doing here. We just have sort of a timer that checks to see what the velocity is every 5% of a second. And then we're just calculating the velocity based off of the rotation of the door, and basically just, standard math, distance over time, to get the velocity. And we're just holding on to certain values like the min and max velocity that we want to allow and stuff like that, because if you can have any velocity, it becomes very, very hard to control the sound of the door. As we'd learned, we were kind of smacking our heads into walls trying to figure out why you get these really like random pitch sounds. Steven is well aware of how difficult it was for us to try and narrow that down, but clamping these to something more reasonable just made it much easier to control the procedural noise. And yeah, it's pretty much everything on the code side. From there, all we're really doing is we have an event that calls for the door to recognize that it's open. So on our activate, going down here, we have a WWise AK event that says that the door has been interacted with to open on both the doorknob and the door hinge, so that we can have the sound of the doorknob opening and then also the sound of the door like creaking open, sort of be able to match around the same time. And in addition, we're doing a couple of things with the procedural door as well, where based off of how fast you close it, so essentially what the velocity of the door is shortly before it actually reaches the door frame, it controls the volume of the door when it closes. So instead of it just being the same exact sound every single time, if you quickly close the door, you'll get a louder sound, and if you slowly close the door, it's a much like softer sound. And then all we're doing is resetting that once you let go of the door on the deactivate, and standard stuff, just resetting the door back to what it's supposed to be. And that's pretty much everything on the Unreal side. Trying to keep this short because we want to go over the Wise side as well. But obviously, if you guys want some further insight into this, or if you're trying to attempt something yourself and would like some extra help, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll try and help figure out your specific situation. So, Steven, you want to go over the Wise side of things? I'll switch over.
Sure. So basically, the way it works is that here, as we said, there's an event for the interaction movement door. So basically, we only have one event. We started with I don't know, like 4 or 5 different events at first, but then we quickly realized that it was just more problems than anything for like this deck in particular. So here, basically, just the single event can trigger like, as you can see here, like a switch group that we can find here, interaction movement. So yeah, we're basically like using the same event for not just the door, but even like a drawers and even like fridge, or even more like in the future. And the way it works is that it calls so the switch group. In here we can find the interaction movement. Yep. So basically, it calls I forgot about that, like a second RTPC, which is here, movement velocity. So yeah, based on the speed, on the velocity of the door, depending on how fast the player like interacts with the door, it's gonna trigger this RTPC, which has like a tiny bit of attack and release in order to like avoid like fast, like a sound to be like too fast. Basically just problematic. It's just like adding a bit of not delay, but just it smoothen the curve. And we can find the curve here. So it's basically just affecting like the voice volume and the voice pitch. So when it's at 0, there's basically like no sound, as you can see if I only select the voice volume. But as soon as we start like increasing the velocity, so to 100, which is like the max, like the max value, and minus 100, which is the minimum value, it will just basically change the sound, as simple as that. So here it's affecting the pitch, so we can see it's just, yeah, there's a difference 1000 or 500 like cents, which is pretty much like half an octave, which is quite a lot, but it fits for this particular scenario. And so that's for the closed sound effect for the door, but we also have like the open one, which is pretty much the same thing, but like on the opposite side, because here it started at 0. So yeah, because minus 100 is the open one, and plus 100 is the closed one. And yeah, that's pretty much like the base of it, and that's how it works within Wise.
Cool. So just in case anyone's not too familiar with terminology when it comes to sound development, basically what this is doing in like a super simplified way is based off of the value of the velocity that we're giving, it's changing the pitch and I think also the volume, right? So we also have volume change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Based off of the velocity it's given, and based off of the curve that Steven has set up in Wise. So if it's in the middle, it basically means the door is not moving at all. And then we have one curve which goes one direction if you're opening the door, and then we have the pitch going the opposite direction when you're closing the door. So that way, instead of having the exact same sound both ways, you kind of get a little bit more variance in opening and closing the door, and it's a little bit more recognizable whether a door is being open or being closed. But the most important aspect of all of this is that you have a sound that you can play, and then essentially just change the pitch of that sound to get the sort of like the different sounds within the movement of the door. And the curve basically just controls, like how much, depending on like how fast you're opening the door and stuff like that. Like a simple way to think about it, it would be when you're quickly opening the door, you want like a sharper sound, and then when you're slowly opening the door, you want the sound to be a little like lower pitched, and potentially lower volume. Going into Unreal again, I can quickly go press play here, and we can spawn into the game. I'm just gonna wait till it loads me in, and you can actually hear something new we've added, which is the door automatically opening. And you can hear like the sound of the door as it slowly opens. I'll play it again later, but when you now interact with the door, so you have that like turning the door handle sound, and then as I'm opening it, so you can hear the sound sort of like adjusting in pitch as I'm moving the door. And if I move it really fast, so it got like quite a bit higher. And then if I do it very slowly, so it slows things down a little bit. The pitch is lower and the volume's a bit lower too. So you have that sort of like slow, the low creepy sort of creaking sound from the door. And then also, as mentioned before, if I quickly try and slam the door against the door frame, oops, didn't do that fast enough. Let me try again. So you can hear it like slam. Oops, try and come from here. Versus if I come in and slowly do it, you can hear it's like very, very quiet. So it's almost like, you know, just a slight little noise as you're like hitting the door frame. And then again, if you do it fast, you can hear it like really like slamming there. But yeah, this is like basically our like second or third implementation after a lot of changes with the velocity. But yeah, it works pretty well. I won't say that it should be something you should strive for depending on the project that you're working on. We personally went with it because we want to have a more immersive environment for Schwarzwald where you really feel like you're in the game and you're actually doing these things. And by having a lot of these small little subtle details, it enables you to feel as though you're actually like in that situation. But in most cases, you might not want that. Maybe you are making a game where you do need to open the door manually, but it's just something like Phasmophobia, where you just hear the sound of the door opening or closing. Or maybe you even just have like a very simplified door event where it's a pre-animated thing where your player is actually going and opening the door. And in those cases, you probably are okay with just, you know, single fire sounds, because you don't really need to worry about there being a lot of variance in how the person's going to open the door. It's very simple. And we can tell you from experience in trying to experiment with this, that trying to find a sound that works perfectly and doesn't sound weird in different situations, and then also trying to find exactly where the boundaries are in terms of the velocity to pitch ratio, it's a lot of work, and it might be worth it, it might not be worth it, but this is just sort of our way of handling it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything around it. I will quickly hop in here again so you can hear the door creak open automatically, because I think that really shows off how this works well. Just gonna play from here. So you can see it pretty much takes the velocity of the door automatically opening and then plays the sound by itself. And it's the exact same sound if I were to try and like mimic the same amount of velocity. It's the same noise that you get. And then, you know, if you're going faster and slower, you get different sounds. There is still some weirdness that happens if you open the door like very, very fast with high DPI, but we're kind of okay with it. We might soften it a little bit later with some more adjustments, but so far it gives a pretty good experience in terms of opening and closing the door. But yeah, thanks for joining us for this devlog. Hopefully we can do more of these in the future. And if there's anything in particular that you want in a more tutorial form, giving you a step-by-step, post down in the comments below, and we'll try and make sure to post some tutorials around it. And yeah, hope to see you guys again. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.